Have you ever felt like no matter what you say or do, your relationship just keeps cycling through the same fights, or you feel stuck in the same mundane routine, feeling like roommates instead of loving partners? If you are feeling stuck, this episode is for you. These issues are all signs that you're in the power struggle stage, something we covered back in episode 2. So today we're going to deep dive into one of the biggest mistakes that we make that keeps us stuck in this stage. And we're obviously going to cover how you can change that. This mistake is so common and so changeable that it deserves its own episode. I'm Lindsay, and you're listening to Loving with Intention, and we are going to dive right in. So there are so many reasons that we get stuck in the power struggle stage, even for years and years, even for a whole lifetime. So one of those reasons is that we do not learn how to do relationships. It makes sense that we get stuck when we never learn how to do this stuff. We spend so much time learning how to do our jobs, our careers, in school, but the one thing that we spend all of our time in, our relationship, we don't learn how to do it. So of course we get stuck. And another reason that we get stuck is that we don't even know that the power struggle stage exists and that it is expected to happen. And now you do know. Now you know that this is a predictable stage in the stages of a thriving relationship. And another reason we stay stuck is that we're often making common mistakes that keep us trapped in the power struggle, and we're not even aware we're making them. I definitely used to make a lot of these. I'm probably still making some. So I want to share one of those big mistakes today. But first, we really need to talk about relationship poisons because they are such a big part of the power struggle. So there are 10 top relationship poisons that I dive into in my love journey process. Things like contempt and resentment and controlling behaviors. But today we're going to talk about criticism, defensiveness, and shutting down. So criticism looks like, blaming or pointing out what your partner's doing wrong, using shaming language like you always do this or you never do this, really just attacks on them, and it doesn't feel good. And defensiveness looks like maybe one partner bringing up hurt feelings or a complaint, and the other partner starts to justify or explains why they did that thing. Or maybe they deny entirely their role in it and they use phrases like, I'm sorry, but. I think we've probably all heard it. I'm sorry, but. And then we have shutting down. So shutting down includes stonewalling. So this is getting totally overwhelmed by your emotions. There's a physiological response and you just shut down. So maybe you're not even aware that you've completely stopped talking in that moment. You're not present. You're stonewalling. And there's also in this category, things like using the silent treatment and withdrawing. Maybe tension or an argument happens with your partner, and then you go to bring it up and your partner won't even talk about it. Or maybe you don't go back and bring it up. So these all fit under shutting down. And I know that it is super easy for all of us to name our partner's poisons. And if you're anything like me, I was always saying, if my partner would just stop doing XYZ, then things would be so much better. And when we pause for a moment and get super curious, why do we focus on our partner changing? Why do we want our partner to change? Why do we see that as the key to things getting better? And honestly, when we pause and think about it, it's pretty easy to see why. We want things to get better. You want peace. You want connection. You want love. Their hurtful behaviors hurt you. And you want to feel safe and loved in your relationship. You want to feel seen. You want to feel appreciated. And that is such a beautiful desire. The desire for your partner to change and for things to improve comes from such a good place. And here's the thing, focusing on your partner's behavior keeps you stuck. Waiting for them to get on board with growth or to actively start working on changing things leads to you feeling frustrated and annoyed and worried, maybe even hopeless. You feel totally powerless because you are putting your happiness in their hands. It changes how you show up because you're reacting to their actions. You are looking for things that they are doing that are hurtful. Your energy is totally off and you're not feeling like you. You might check in with yourself and think, yeah, I'm really not showing up as the person that I want to be in this relationship. I don't even feel like myself. So super ironically, while your intention and desire behind wanting them to change is to create connection and love, focusing on them needing to change actually pushes you further from your goal and your desire. Instead of creating connection, you end up putting distance between you two by fixating on their faults and feeling totally miserable. It is a downward spiral. It is exactly the opposite of what your desire and goal is. This is why focusing on our partner's unhealthy patterns is one of the biggest mistakes that we make in our relationships. In my love journey process with clients, we circled back to the 5 stages of a thriving relationship again and again and again. And I circle back to it again and again in my relationship too, because I know that if we're having a power struggle-y time, I get to step into the commitment stage and really shift things. The 5 stages of a thriving relationship holds the key to getting out of the power struggle. It is your roadmap to a thriving relationship. So we're going to talk about it again and again. And you can check out episode 2 and 3, where we really deep dive the 5 stages. The truth is, moving out of the inevitable power struggle stage requires shifting your focus from your partner's behaviors to your own behavior. Then you empower yourself to create real change. The breakthrough doesn't come from finally convincing your partner to change, if that even ever happens. The breakthrough actually comes from looking at how you've been contributing to what hasn't been working and leaning into your own growth so that you can shift the whole dance, which is so amazing. So when we talk about criticism, defensiveness, and shutting down, our brains, most of us probably immediately go, yep, my partner does all of those, or my partner does XYZ. So to get out of the power struggle, remember, we get to get intentional about shifting that focus and checking in with ourselves. Which ones do you do? I'm all about being open with my stuff. So even though my partner and I do have a thriving relationship, we still have unhealthy patterns that show up. That is normal. Mine are defensiveness and stonewalling. I will so own that. I look at these as growth opportunities. We want to invite in so much compassion when we are owning our own stuff, because we all have unhealthy patterns. And it can also be super easy to own your own stuff and then justify. So, maybe I say I'm defensive, but I wouldn't get defensive if my partner wasn't so critical. Or maybe I say I am critical, but I wouldn't be so critical if they didn't shut down. We can find a way to justify all of these things, but the truth is that we all have choice. And when we blame our partner for causing our reactions, that gives your power to change away. So none of my content applies to abusive or unsafe relationships. That is an entirely different conversation, and I'm sending so much love if that is showing up in your relationship. So here we are, owning our own stuff. This is amazing. We are taking personal responsibility. We are feeling empowered. Now what? Now what do we do? This is where one of my favorite concepts comes in. It is the lens that I aspire to see the world through. It is called wonder and look under. I learned this concept through the Center for Thriving Relationships, where I did my coach training. And if you have done any work with me in the past, you will know this concept well. So when we look at poisons and bring in wonder and look under, we find under every single relationship poison is actually an unmet need. Poisons are unhealthy strategies to get beautiful needs met. I will say that again because it is so important. Poisons are unhealthy strategies to get beautiful, valid, amazing needs met. Throughout our lives, we learn these unhealthy strategies to get our needs met. And, they may have been modeled for us growing up. Maybe we saw our caregivers not bring things up and they would just go into shutdown. So maybe something would happen and you'd see your caregivers just be in silence for an entire day, even more than one day. You never saw them bringing anything up. Or, maybe you saw your caregivers fight and use other relationship poisons. And also, we may have done these unhealthy patterns as kids, and it kept us safe and out of trouble. So an example of that might be, say someone had a critical parent, and that kid learned that if I take accountability and own things, my parent gets even more mad. They are really mean to me. They're really critical to me. So subconsciously, that child learns, when I get defensive, so when I make excuses or deny, or maybe say, my brother or sister did it, when I justify my actions, I actually get in less trouble. So that means that the kid feels safer, happier, more connected to their caregiver, which is exactly what we long for as a child. So when we look at this little kid getting defensive, the need under that would be for safety, for love, for compassion, for ease, for harmony. And that is the smartest thing that that little human could do to keep him or herself safe in that scenario. So we want to bring in so much compassion with all of these relationship poisons. We have just learned them along the way. And it makes sense that years later, these poisons are playing out in your adult relationships because it is such a well-worn pattern. When we are children, our brains are sponges. We are rewiring, we are wiring neural pathways, we are creating these patterns. They stick around for a long time. So it makes sense that it is still happening now. And this is not about blame on your caregivers. We are here, we are noticing, we are thinking back, we are here to learn and grow from all the things. And that's really the beautiful part of it, is we get to own our stuff and we get to learn healthier ways to express those beautiful needs once we recognize that, oh my gosh, there are needs under there. So I just invite you today, if you want to get really curious, is thinking about the poison that maybe you could own, whether it's criticism, defensiveness, shutting down. What do you think you need in that moment? So examples of that, maybe if I was criticizing my partner for being late, what I might need is teamwork, support, understanding, but I'm expressing it through criticism. Or maybe I get defensive. My partner says I hurt their feelings and I start to say, well, I didn't mean to. That's not what I meant. I might want to be seen for my best intentions. I want understanding. I want forgiveness. I want empathy, but I express that through defensiveness. Or maybe I shut down. Maybe my partner's upset. They bring it up and I just stop talking. In that moment, I may need affection. I may need compassion. I may need understanding, but I express that need through shutting down. All of these poisons actually push us further away from getting our needs met. Our partner doesn't look at these poisons and go, oh, she just needs compassion. Oh, she just needs love. Or, oh, he just needs to be seen for his best intentions. We don't see that unless we're using Wonder and Look Under lens, which you can now do, which is the coolest. So you can see that your poisons have beautiful, valid needs underneath. And know in your heart that under every poison that your partner does, there's a whole list of beautiful needs too. They are also using unhealthy strategies to get their needs met. And at first glance, I know it can be really hard to see that. So you might just think, no, they're just being mean, or they never want to talk about things. They just shut down when I bring this thing up, or no, they're just acting like a jerk. Under those things are beautiful needs. They are expressing them in unhealthy ways that they've learned in their life, just like you do, just like I do, just like we all do. And learning to look through the Wonder and Look Under lens can allow you to pause and bring in curiosity and softness and compassion. And it is such a beautiful thing. And of course, none of this excuses your partner's behavior or says that it's okay that they're doing these things. It's okay that they're being critical or defensive because there's beautiful needs under there. I am not suggesting that at all. And I'm not suggesting that you need to just stand back, pretend it's not happening. What we're talking about is bringing in a deeper understanding of what's going on under the surface for both of you, because this is how change happens. If we stay stuck in the surface stuff, change is not happening. So if you can start seeing and speaking to the needs underneath the poisons on both sides, you're creating change. And it's so good. It's so good. There is absolutely a place to bring up your hurt feelings around the poison that your partner used, because you deserve all the love and all of the apologies and to be seen and to be so cared for. So at the end of this episode, I am going to give you an intentional action that you can do today to really put this into practice. But first, I want you to picture, so just imagine you're holding a remote control. You're pointing it at the TV is on, you're pushing the buttons, but the volume won't change, the channel won't change, take out the batteries, you're smashing the thing, you're really mashing the buttons. It won't change no matter what you do. You're hoping for a different result, but it won't work. Super frustrating, right? So think of this remote as your attempt to control your partner's behavior. No matter how hard you try to push those buttons through criticism, requests, demands that they change, even through thoughtful, heartfelt emails asking them to change, begging them to change, you can't make them change. The truth is, That remote you've got, it doesn't work because you can't control someone else's actions. But here's the cool thing. You do have another remote. Dun, 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 dun. One that controls your actions, your reactions, your responses, and how you show up in the relationship. The moment you stop focusing on the broken remote and start using the remote you actually have control over, you can start creating real change. It's about focusing on what you can shift, which is yourself, and that in turn influences the whole relationship dynamic. So your intentional action today is to bring in that wonder and look under lens. Curiosity is key in our relationships. Just notice when you're getting frustrated or angry or upset with your partner, something that they're doing, maybe they're using poisons, pause and get curious. What unmet needs might be under there? What might they be trying to express, but they're doing it in an unhealthy way? And you can also, in that moment, turn the focus back on yourself, on how you show up, and check in. Am I using poisons? Am I about to use poisons? This moves you from powerless to empowered. You have so got this. So got this. Thank you so much for listening. If you are stoked for more episodes, the very best way to make sure that you don't miss a thing is to subscribe on YouTube or your podcast apps. And if you are loving the podcast so far, I would be so grateful if you took a moment to rate the pod with 5 stars and if you'd leave a review. This helps the pod reach more people and you can be part of spreading love ripples in the world. If you have any thoughts, episode ideas, or questions, I would love to hear from you on Instagram, loving.with.intention. Just shoot me a DM. Thank you so much for being here. I am sending all of the love into your day. And remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. So let's have an intentional week.